Greetings from Miami University Regional's Career Services. Today we're going to be talking with you about building effective resumes. And so we're going to begin by introducing our staff, our team from the Career Services Office. My name is Doug Reichenberger, and I'm the Director of the Career Services and Professional Development Office. And Linda Vogt is our Program Associate, and she works at both Middletown and Hamilton campuses, as do I. So we both travel back and forth. And then Steve Wayne is our Assistant Director for Employer Relations, and he's primarily at the Middletown campus, but he's focused specifically on making connections with employers. So if you're looking to find an internship or a full-time career opportunity, Steve is a person that would be best to help you with that. And then today we have Emily Cardwell Snively. She is our Assistant Director for Career Development. And Emily and I are going to be working with you today to help build your resume and to get you prepared for your job search.
Great. So to start, let's talk about the purpose of your resume. So it's kind of twofold. First, you're going to be communicating the knowledge, skills, and relevant work experience that you bring to the table. And so when we're talking about building an effective resume, we're talking about how you're going to be able to do that in the most effective way to secure the kind of job that you're looking for. And then, of course, you want to get an interview out of submitting your resume too. So again, we know that you have all this great knowledge, skills, and relevant experience. So our goal is to help you communicate that in the best way possible so that you can get that interview and then ultimately get the job that you're looking for.
So there are a couple of different formats that people use in building their resumes. The most common is a reverse chronological. And it's a one-page resume, and it has your experiences listed in reverse chronological order. However, that may not necessarily be the best format for new college graduates, in particular if you don't have career experience related to the position that you're pursuing. So we also have another format called the functional or skills resume. And again, it's still a one-page document, but it's focusing mostly on skill sets that are relevant to the position that you're pursuing. And so the order in which you put the information on your page is important, and we'll talk further about how to do that here in a moment. White space is also a good idea. Rather than just filling your document full of text, you want to be purposeful in the way that you're organizing your information, and to do it with some good spaces. And then choose a font that's easy to read. 10 to 12 point is best for your content areas. Now we recommend that your name would still be the largest font on the page, so maybe 16, maybe even up to 18 point. And then if you do print your resume, and I say if because the majority of you are going to be emailing your resume or submitting it through an application system online. But if you do print it, then be sure that it's on high quality paper, not just photocopy paper. And you can find those papers at Walmart, Staples, Office Max, and places online as well. And then before you submit that resume, whether it's through email or an application system, be sure to save it as a PDF. That will protect the formatting of your document, and it'll also ensure that nobody's going to be messing with your resume.
So as you're thinking about what you want to put on your resume, there are a few main things that you should think about including. So many students will come in and they'll have a career objective of some kind. We actually recommend, if you're going to put a section like that on your resume, doing a career summary or a career profile. This is just kind of what it sounds like, a summary of the skills and experience you're bringing to the table. And so that's different from a career objective, because a career objective is usually about what you're looking for out of a position or out of a career path. And so we want to kind of stay away from language like that, because when you're building an effective resume, you're showing the employer how you specifically can connect to what they're looking for in the position. So a summary is a more effective way of doing that. You're definitely going to want to put education on your resume. You're going to start with Miami, and after your freshman year here at Miami Regionals, you're going to remove high school because you're going to want to focus on your Miami experience and qualifications at that point. If you are in a field like education or nursing, you're probably going to be getting some licenses or certificates, so you'll want to put those on your resume as well. You might think about putting relevant coursework on your resume. So I know some students in applied biology, for example, will want to put some of their classes on their resume. But think about the position you're applying for and think about the classes you've gained that knowledge in, and those are the ones you would want to put on your resume, but no more than 8, I would say. Relevant experience is also very important for the resume. You're going to list out bullet points describing what you have done in those experiences, and we'll talk more about that in a minute. Other experience is experience that's still valuable because you have gained transferable skills in those experiences. Maybe it's not directly related to your career path, but still important to include. And then any activities or honors that you have that shows your range of interests and your leadership potential, things like that.
Yeah, and so the content is really important when you're building your resume. And as Emily said, you want to have bullet statements that will help to focus on what you're capable of doing for this employer that you're applying to. So you want to think, if you do have relevant experience, whether it's volunteer experience, could be full-time, part-time, summer, even some class projects would be appropriate for you to include as relevant experience. So whether it's paid or unpaid, doesn't matter, as long as the work that you were doing was related to the career path that you're interested in pursuing. And you want to begin those bullet points with action verbs. And some examples of those action verbs could be supervised, created, maintained, organized, developed, and then just explain what it was that you developed or who you supervised, and whether it was a group of people or just a small one or two, and what were you doing specifically with those groups or with projects. Be sure to include any accomplishments and outcomes as well. We'll talk a little bit further here in just a moment about that. But and then, as Emily also mentioned, activities and honors are really important to include so that it demonstrates your diversity of interest, and it can also help to highlight any leadership responsibilities that you may have held, and certainly accomplishments. So if you have received scholarships or academic awards, recognitions from organizations that you are a part of, all of those are really important to consider including on your resume, and that would be in a separate heading.
So let's talk a little bit more about those bullet points for your experiences. So when we're thinking about writing bullet points, we want to move away from just listing the tasks that you completed in the position. In other words, don't just put the job description back onto your resume. You want to tell the story of what you specifically did in that position. So think about more of what you accomplished versus what was expected of you. And a good way to do that is to use this formula, action verb plus context plus result. So you're going to start with one of those strong action verbs that Doug was mentioning, communicated, maintained, organized. And then you're going to add some context. So quantify, if you can, how many of any particular thing you do. Provide details where necessary without necessarily bogging down the bullet point. You don't want it to be several lines long, but provide enough context so that the employer gets a sense of what you were able to do. And then the most important thing you can do is add the result. So what was the outcome of your work? Why were you doing what you were doing? So again, a good way to think about this is impact, goal, contribution. What impact did you have? What was the goal of your work? How did you contribute? And this format is the best way to express the scope of your responsibility, your accomplishments, and your outcomes. So this is what helps set you apart from other candidates.
And be careful to refrain from using any I statements
Yes.
in these bullets. We try to encourage students to just use those action verbs and then just get right into the point of whatever it is you're trying to communicate there. So once again, we're going to show you a couple of different samples of resumes. First is the reverse chronological. And as we mentioned already, you begin with your most recent either education and or career experience. But in this sample, you'll be able to see a typical way of how a person might format their resume in a reverse chronological style. So it begins with education at the top. If you happen to be a transfer student from another university, then go ahead and list that here as well in your education section. But list Miami University first, and then the secondary place of education. And then we have the relevant work experience. And again, this could be paid or unpaid kinds of experiences. And then in this particular position, the person is listing their job title as an entrepreneur. So he's a business owner. And then he's describing exactly what it was that he was doing and who his customer base was, and then what his outcome was, showing that he had a $2,500 investment and a reality of about $40,000 revenue just over one summer period. He's also listing some of his other work experience, and it depends on how relevant those other work experiences might be as to whether you're going to list any bullet points. Now, in this case, it appears that his work experience could somehow be relevant to what he's pursuing if it's kind of hands-on, if you will, blue-collar kind of work, and maybe he eventually intends to work in that type of environment, maybe in some leadership responsibilities, management, and so forth. And so he's showing that kind of experiences just to show that of what his relevancy might be in connecting with that workforce. Then he's also indicating what his activities were at Miami University, being on the golf team and participating in a volunteer experience. And then also his awards, which are athletic related. But again, you could include your education experiences here. And then this is certainly an optional piece here at the very bottom, hobbies and interest. It's not often that you would do something like that, but again, it appears that Jason is kind of moving in the direction of maybe working in an environment where he might be trying to relate to people that are in a trade or blue-collar kind of work environment. And so by showing that he has some automotive skills and interest in the automotive industry, can just help set him apart from other candidates that might be making application. Then we have our skills functional resume as well. And this particular format, again, is trying to help to highlight certain skill sets that may be hidden, if you will, if you were just to use job title and reverse chronological work experience sections. So in this case, Catherine is beginning with a career summary. And so she's showing that she has over 10 years of experience in work already. And then she's coming back to the Miami University and finishing a degree in applied biology. But she's also showing that she was at UC for several years. Then she's transitioning to this skills section that we have been talking about. And these skill sets are some of the skills that all employers are looking for. Nearly every employer, regardless of the type of position you're seeking, is looking for somebody who can come in and solve problems and or is a good communicator. And so Catherine has been able to show how she's solved problems and how she's communicated with either a team or customers and so forth. And then showing the monitoring and analyzing skill sets that she has, of course, being applied biology, very important to be able to demonstrate those skills. And then her stewardship and improvement skill sets as well. And again, just showing, what it was that she has been able to do. And notice that it's all either naturalist or wildlife based. And again, that's the career path that she's interested in pursuing as applied biology major. So then when you see her work experience, you can see why using this skills-based format was a good idea for her, because if she just shows that she's worked at Jungle Gyms and Toys R Us and then Big's Pharmacy, people are going to look at that and say, how would you be a good fit for us in our research lab, for example, or in field work, if we're going to be doing some environmental studies, for example. Well, if you look at those skills that she was demonstrating earlier, that's how she's making the connection. And so that's why she's chosen to use this functional skills format. And then you can also see that her volunteer experience is also helping to support the fact that she is very focused on this career path, working at Caesar Creek Lake and doing some monitoring of some birds' nests, for example. Well, there's no other way to be able to show that she has that experience other than through demonstrating this volunteer experience here. And then the training and certifications that she has had, again, is helping to support that she has the interest and skills and desire to pursue careers in this applied science, applied biology pathway.
So a common misconception when it comes to resumes is that you should put references available upon request on your resume. And we do not recommend doing that because there are so many other good things you could put on your resume and use that space for. Plus, employers will typically be looking for a separate references sheet if they do want references, and they'll indicate that to you in the job posting or somewhere in the application process. So if they do ask for a references page, you'll list 4 to 6 references on a separate page from your resume with your name and contact information at the top. And we recommend using the same header that you have on your resume to maintain consistent branding across all your application materials. And you're going to include the name and job title of each reference, who they work for, their location, their contact information, phone and email, because you don't know which way the employer is going to want to contact them. And then how you're associated with them or the number of years you've known them. You don't necessarily have to include both, but it might be helpful to say something like former supervisor or something like that.
And before putting any of those names on the list, be sure that you ask permission from the reference person, and don't assume that they're going to be doing that for you.
Yes, absolutely. And once your resume is in good shape, once you've had it reviewed by us and you are happy with it, you should upload it to your Handshake profile. So Handshake is our job search platform here at Miami University. We have employers on there all the time looking for candidates. So if they come across your profile, your resume will be uploaded and they'll be able to get a better idea of who you are and if you would be a good fit for them. So if you haven't logged into Handshake before, you already have an account. All you have to do is log in at that address there with your unique ID and password and start exploring. So you can look for jobs and internships on there, register for events like our career fairs, but also definitely make sure to fill out your Handshake profile with some information, but also upload your resume. And an important thing to note about uploading your resume to your profile is that you're going to need to make sure that you mark it as visible, because otherwise it will say that you have a document on your profile, but no one will be able to see it. So make sure that if you want employers to see your resume, that you mark it as visible.
And we hear from students all the time that they were contacted by an employer through Handshake because of doing exactly as Emily has described. And so, yeah, making your resume visible is going to just help to enhance your opportunity to connect with employers. So we have a specific review process, and you are welcome to possibly stop by and drop off your resume. During these COVID times, we know that many of you are not even on campus. Um, but if, whenever, you happen to be on campus, you're welcome to just, as again, stop by, drop off your resume, and or have a conversation either with one of our career ambassadors or with Emily, Steve, or myself, and also with Linda. She has been available to help review resumes as well. So any one of us in the career services team can take a look at your resume and offer some tips and suggestions. If you have a question about maybe a formatting issue or a certain type of information that you should or should not include on your resume, feel free to give us a call. And you see the phone numbers there on the screen. And we'll be happy to try to address those kinds of questions and concerns over the phone with you as well. And in order to set up an appointment with us, you're going to again want to go back into Handshake, and then you can schedule appointments through Handshake for any one of us in the Career Services office.
So we covered a lot of information about resumes today, but if you do have any questions related to your specific experience and circumstances or other ways you could set up your resume, feel free to reach out to any of us, but also to check out our website, which is miamioh.edu/regionals/career services. We do have already quite a bit of information about resumes on there, and we're going to be expanding that here in the future. So definitely check that out.
All right. So it's been our pleasure to be presenting to you today. And as Emily said, if you have questions, feel free to check us out on our website and or give us a call or send us an email. We'll be happy to respond.